Hey guys, Corrosive here. Hope everyone's doing well. Today I wanted to show you my weekend project, and that was digital amateur television. I'm actually using a LimeSDR, although other SDRs could be used for this, alongside a satellite receiver originally intended for FTA or free-to-air satellite. And what we're really doing here is I'm taking my signal using, in this case, a program called DATV Express, and that's taking the audio and video from my webcam, modifying it into that dvb-s stream, and then it's being transmitted via the LimeSDR. So as some of you may know, I am an avid amateur radio operator, and so this is now giving me the ability to do digital amateur television using this satellite equipment. And now you may be wondering, Corrosive, you just said satellite. How are you transmitting using a receiving on a satellite receiver from an SDR? I've got no LNB, so what are we doing? Well, it's actually quite simple. I have a little wire antenna here, and what the LNB does, aside from amplifying your signal, is it down converts that 11 gigahertz signal from the satellite down into one right around 1.2 gigahertz, roughly depending on the local oscillator of that LNB and a few other factors. Basically what I've done is I have told the satellite receiver that we're using a 9.750 gigahertz local oscillator LNB, or 9750 megs, and rather than putting the LNB on it, I've placed this wire antenna here. So if I want to transmit at 1.28 gigahertz, I take that, I add 9750 to it, and that will give me the transponder frequency that the receiver would be looking for. So let me go ahead and show you how I actually set all this up. And even before I go into that, I want to show you here, we got on the info screen, it's showing we're at 1.28 gigahertz. I kind of got my name down here. You got our signal indicator. And then up in the corner, it actually says Corrosive. Now, if you're transmitting for amateur use, you could put your call sign up there as well. So it is pretty flexible in how this software works. I'm using DATV Express, but you could use GNU Radio and a HackRF, any number of different SDRs. But let me kind of show you what I did with this little receiver here. So I'm going to go into our EPG. I keep forgetting I have to point down here where the IR receiver is. There we go. So we've got, youtube.com/ccorrosive, and you can change the actual time there, which is kind of cool. For the name of the show, I just put the frequency I'm transmitting at and then save that into the receiver. So when I'm out and about, I can actually flip through these channels. You'll see as I move up, we've got 1.242, 1244, and so on. Now, obviously, this is not where the transponders would have been. This is the down-converted frequencies for this. So what we're going to do is I'm going to head over to the menu and show you what I did. So I've removed all the satellites that are in this receiver, and I've added one called 23 centimeter DATV. And if we go and edit this, you'll see, well, maybe not that. I need to edit the antenna info. So we're going to go over here. And you can see there's my 9750 LNB local oscillator there. And again, we're not using an LNB. We're just telling it we are. So that way we can bring that frequency over. And I've turned LNB power off. So this antenna is wrapped just for safety because your LNB would normally be powered by your receiver. In this case, I've just told it to turn the power off. We're going to use the antenna. And I've wrapped it just to be safe. Always wrap your antenna, unlike anything else. We've turned off the 22K tone. We don't need it. We've disabled all dissect. We don't need it. And now we've got our transponders. So let me back out here. And we'll go to our transponder list. So here are the 6 transponders that I have set up for that particular satellite in the receiver. We've got 6 channels. And over here you'll see the transponder frequency it's looking for. So right now I'm transmitting at 1.28 gigahertz. Well, 1.28 1.28 gigahertz. We add the 9750 megahertz to that. That brings us up to 11030. So this is the transponder frequency this would be looking for if a real LNB was in place. So with that LNB out of place, without that down conversion, we can just transmit directly to the receiver. You'll also notice I have gone back and forth between horizontal and vertical polarization. Now, there's a reason for this. There are actually 3 ATV frequencies in the 23 centimeter band. they're about 6 megahertz wide. So I've actually split this into 6 channels by cutting that in half because I'm only transmitting at 2 megasamples, which is about a 3 megahertz wide signal with dvb-s 2. And this will work with dvb-s 1 as well. You just switch your modulation and off to the races. Now, because it doesn't like those signals being so close together, we tell it to switch the polarization. Now, when you switch the polarization on a typical satellite receiver, you're changing the voltage to that LNB, and it's flipping the polarization within that receiver. Now, because we're receiving without an LNB directly with this antenna, I can just tell it to switch polarization, tell it not to change the, not to enable power, and it's an arbitrary thing that means nothing to the receiver, but it means a whole lot to us because now I can fit all 6 of these channels in here. Now, of course, you could go in and edit all of these and change your frequency. What I ended up doing is I manually put all these in here. I would transmit with the channel name in my transmitter set to the frequency I'm transmitting at, and then tell it to scan the transponder. And I would scan and find it and add it to the list. And, that's really all there was to it. It works fairly well. The quality of your video that you end up getting is going to drastically change depending on your, transmission levels, how close you are to the receiver, and so on. I've actually brought my SDR down a bit because if I had transmitted at full power, I would overload the receiver. And I want to show you too, audio does work. Let me go ahead and unmute. Audio works great. So that's where we're at so far. Now the next step for me is going to be to actually fully dump the firmware here and try to edit the UI, because like I said before, there are sections in this, this is meant for FTA, and really that's kind of a guise for these people. They say it's for FTA, but these do have functionality to connect to card sharing servers for basically pirating satellite service, and I don't know how well they've worked. I've never played with them, but I feel like this is a much better use of these cheap receivers anyway, using them for amateur radio. So I've created a firmware image that has all of these frequencies in it. If anyone else wants to use them, I'm planning on releasing that soon. Stay tuned for some more videos. I'm working on actually ripping the firmware apart and modifying it so I can strip out those features that we wouldn't use and then modify the UI so it's just kind of basic what you need, and you can kind of just flip through your ATV channels. So, that's really all there is to it. I kind of wanted to flip through a few things here just to show, it'll pull up that satellite list saying DATV. If we wanted to, let's actually go back before we end our video here. Let's go over to channel 1. Channel 1 is 1.242 gigahertz. I'm going to stop my transmitter. And I'm going to go into my modulator here. What did I say that frequency was? 1.242. So we're going to go 1, 2, 4, 2. And I'm going to prep my LimeSDR to transmit. It's preparing for that now. We'll give that just a moment. And we're going to hit transmit. Let's see, we are at 12 megahertz. I missed a number apparently. We need to go, it's 12.242, 12.242. My apologies. Stupid numlock on the computer wasn't on. So we'll give that a moment. It needs to fix that, and then it'll go to 1.242. Numlock wasn't enabled. I'm not going to re-record the segments again. So, all right, now we transmit 1.242 gigahertz. We're on the air. And there you go. So, I don't know. I'm pretty happy with it. A while back I played around with doing this using a more expensive FTA receiver that I got from Goodwill, and I just saw that these were so plentiful. I wanted to see if I could use these to do the same thing, and just kind of streamline it, make it a little bit easier to use. So I'll put links in the description if you're interested in messing with this sort of thing, but yeah, questions, comments, let me know. If you know anything about these cheap Chinese satellite receivers, please let me know. Like I said, I am very interested in modifying the firmware and doing some more extensive things with this. So, again, I hope you enjoyed. This has been Corrosive. You guys have a great night.